Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video I'm going to talk to you about the Baker Act and whether or not the concern about a loved one being Baker Acted should dissuade you from not putting them into treatment. So let me give you sort of the synopsis of how this video came about. We had a family that has a loved one that has severe behavioral health issues, substance use, mental illness. It's been going on for a long time. They have been unsuccessful in getting their loved one to even go into treatment. Kind of I hate to say it's the prototypical case that we see, but it's the prototypical kind of case that we see where this has been going on for a long time and the family is just basically being destroyed. And they called us, they talked to us about a Marchman Act and a guardianship and maybe doing a combination of both. I'm a big fan of doing both of them. And they had also been looking at some of the videos that I've been putting out there about the Baker Act. And they said, we've seen your videos about the Baker Act and we're afraid that if we do anything, that our loved one could get Baker Acted. If we put him into treatment, he might get Baker Acted. And I said, okay, let's take a second to talk about that. Look, when a family calls us, every concern of theirs it has to be addressed, right? I totally get it. This is the unknown. It's a little frightening, and we're asking you to make a serious commitment to us, right, of time, energy, and money, most of which you've probably already exhausted by the time you get to us. So we understand that, and we want to be open and honest about what we can and what we cannot do, and the limitations of seeking legal recourse, and also the benefits and the tremendous results that you can get. And I said, okay, let's talk about that. So first of all, and I think I've covered this in another video, it only takes two things to get you Baker Acted, right? A finger and someone appointed, right? And so the cases that we get where we are called in to basically get somebody out of a Baker Act facility, and by the way, that happened to my family member where they shouldn't be there. Those are cases where somebody picked up the phone, called 911. Somebody ended up in an emergency room and they got Baker Acted, okay? That is completely different from when somebody is already in treatment and we are on board with the case and now they need a higher level of care. And think about this logically, right? If you had a loved one that was in treatment and God forbid they said, I'm having chest pain, wouldn't you want the facility to pick up the phone, call 911 and get them some emergency medical services, right? I mean, surely that would be a rational conclusion that we could all agree on. The same thing, right? Except for instead of having chest pain, now they're telling the facility, I don't feel well, I'm suicidal, or they experience some type of psychotic break which requires a higher level of care, which is really what the Baker Act is designed for. And so the facility either calls 911 or they issue a professional certificate, which is a document issued by a qualified professional, like a licensed clinical social worker, that says this person meets Baker Act criteria, and would the police come and get the person and take them to a Baker Act facility so they can get a higher level of care, right? Those are kind of really different cases where somebody is already in treatment, already on the case. Those types of cases, first of all, if the person needs a higher level of care, then we want them to be Baker Acted because we want them to get the higher level of services that they need so they can be assessed and stabilized. And then typically what happens is they go back into treatment, right? The facility isn't fighting to keep the person. They know that the patients come in just to get that higher level of care versus, the police get called to a scene of something, somebody gets taken to a facility and now nobody knows they're there. And I've spoken about this numerous times before, and I've told you that when somebody gets Baker Acted, as a general rule, nobody knows they're there, which is why the facility can take advantage of the situation because, well, nobody's watching because nobody knows they're there, right? There's no judge overseeing this. This is different from when somebody is already in treatment and now there is a court order in place, right? Marchman Act or a guardianship or a combination of both, and there's an active case. So God forbid there's an issue, yeah, I can run back into court. But as a general rule, when somebody is in treatment, there's not an issue with the Baker Act facility. There simply isn't, because they know they're only there to stabilize the person and get them back into that facility so they can continue with treatment. And worst case scenario, and I haven't seen this happen yet, but it could happen, if the facility decides to act nefariously and says, we want to keep this person, well, yeah, I'm going to go back into court and see either the Marchman Act judge or the guardianship judge, or worst case, I'll go into the Baker Act court. But I'm going to go and see a judge and say, Your Honor, I have a piece of paper here which says they're supposed to be in treatment. and I can address it that way. But please don't use the Fear of the Baker Act to dissuade you from putting somebody into treatment who desperately needs it. Because eventually, if you don't, and I've said this before too, the state will step in and take your loved one, either through the criminal system or the mental health system. They will do it, one way or the other. If your loved one doesn't get the help they need, the state will step in and do it for you. And I promise you, you will not like the results if the state does it, because they are really, really terrible here in the state of Florida at taking care of people with mental health issues. So I hope that clarifies this, and that you don't feel afraid to put your loved one to treatment. We're here to help, but just a twist on things. I try to answer your questions as best I can. I'd love a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.